Hi everyone, I'm Cariss, and as you're aware, I'm a nurse, so I'm going to be staying for the rest of the day so I can add this to my own personal development folder. So don't worry about asking any questions. I'm here as an ambassador for the charity, but I'm also here as a nurse, so no holds barred with me. I'll talk from the patient's perspective and I'll talk from a nurse's perspective as well. So, I didn't put as much effort into my slides as I think everybody else has. You have to forgive me for that. I'm not very tech savvy, but I'm going to talk about my experiences being diagnosed with and now living with a grade 3 Oligo-Astrocytoma. So I was 29 years old when I started experiencing what I could only describe as the weirdest, oddest sensations that I kept private for a while because I was concerned that I was developing a mental illness, and given the job that I'm in as a psychiatric nurse, I was worried how my colleagues might react, and I was worried that I would lose my job. What I was experiencing was an intense sensation of deja vu, but also olfactory hallucinations. Now, I'd worked with people who'd experienced schizophrenia and all sorts of psychotic illnesses, and quite a few of them reported having olfactory hallucinations, smell hallucinations, rather than the typical hearing voices. So I thought, pardon my language, oh shit, I've developed a mental illness, I'm going to lose my job. So I didn't do anything about it for a long time, which was an error on my part. As the symptoms progressed and I started experiencing different ones, such as bending down, leaning back up again, I had this throbbing sensation in my head. I just thought, oh, I must have high blood pressure then. But eventually, I did the sensible thing as a nurse, Googled all my symptoms, and diagnosed myself with temporal lobe epilepsy. So I trotted to the GP. Hello, Dr. Dawes. I think I've got epilepsy. Can we do something about it? This is what I'm experiencing. Straight away, he said, right, let's get you referred to a neurologist. No messing about, straight away. He listened to my symptoms, he took note, and he referred me to a neurologist, but he also referred me to the hospital for an MRI scan, which came through really quickly. And so I went and had that done. And then the next day, they called me back for another one, this time with contrast. So I was a little bit worried, but I thought, oh, maybe they've just lost the file, or it could be anyway, you know what hospitals are like these days. And so I went back and had 2 more scans, one with contrast, one without. And then I had a meeting with my GP, and he said, right, we need to talk about your scan results. There's a growth. And straight away, I knew I've got a brain tumour. But my mum, being the optimist that she is, oh, well, just because it suggests it's a growth, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. The doctor was like, no, it does. When they say suggest, what they really mean is, it is, but they don't want to put the wind up here. So that's when, instead of going to the neurologist, I was redirected to the neurosurgeon. It was actually Professor Cruikshank at the QE who's given a chat after. And so we had meetings there, explained the procedure for the surgery. And instead of feeling frightened, which I was expecting to feel, I was almost excited in a really strange way. But reflecting on that feeling now, to me, I could see exactly what was happening. When you have anxiety, you're either in fight or flight mode, and I was full on fight. So I was ready to take this on. So after the initial appointment, because it was a primary tumour, we thought it was going to be a grade 2 glioma. So I was prepared to wait to do the surgery because my sister was getting married on the 25th of May, and this conversation was happening in the April. So I was like, well, I don't really want to annoy my sister. She's getting married. It's her big day. Can we just push it to June? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So again, I was full of confidence, thinking it's a grade 2. I don't really have anything to worry about. Following the surgery, I was admitted on the Monday morning, had 8-hour surgery, awake by the evening, spent the rest of the day in hospital, all day on the Tuesday. Wednesday I went home. I felt fine. I was still so excited about this adventure that was going on, and I just felt like so happy to be alive, because I had never told my mum this because it would break her heart, but I wasn't expecting to wake up from the surgery. So when I did, I just had this new lust for life, and I wanted to do everything and see everything. And so I was just so excited to be alive that I sort of perhaps rushed to get home. Probably wasn't really ready, but I convinced everybody that I was. that's the tumour. So previous to the symptoms that I started having, what I mentioned earlier, I had a pain behind my eye. So I did the thing that everybody would do, and I went to the opticians and they did all the tests and there was nothing wrong. I was like, why have I got to start wearing my glasses more often? I'm having all these headaches. It was like, well, it doesn't mean your eyesight's changed and I can't see anything on your optic nerve, so it just means you've got to wear your glasses more. Well, why if nothing's wrong? You know, I couldn't understand what the optician was telling me, but when you see the placement of the tumour, it was pushing against the optic nerve, but it wasn't on it, so that's why they couldn't see it. So the only reason that we found out that this was here was because of all the weird experiences that I was having, the deja vu and the smells. Now, as my role as a psychiatric nurse, I work with children. We get a lot of children through our doors who are complaining of anxiety. That's what that feeling of deja vu was giving me every day. But I could explain that it was deja vu. A child who's 7 years old wouldn't be able to put that feeling into words, and I think that's one of the reasons why it gets underdiagnosed, because they can't describe it. Recovery. After I was diagnosed with the grade 3 tumour, I was referred to Wolverhampton New Cross Hospital because that was closest to where I live, and I was prescribed 6 weeks of daily radiotherapy and then followed by 6 months chemotherapy. And the radiotherapy went really well. I had the headaches, I had the fatigue, I had the hair loss. It's growing back, this is real. I also got really fat because of the steroids that I was on, because again, the swelling of my brain and the fluid in there was giving me such pain. So I had to have even more steroids, which made me even fatter, which then affected my self-esteem. Not only was I this big fat lump, I was miserable. I knew that I got brain cancer, and I just was so fed up. And sometimes I thought, what's the point? The future that I had in front of me, gone now. But before I had all the treatment, I had a discussion with my doctor, my oncologist, about the radiotherapy and the side effects that that could give me, and also the chemotherapy and all the side effects that that could give me, one of which is infertility. I haven't got it, but she also told me that my lifespan was 5 to 10 years. At that point, I'd just come out of a very emotionally abusive relationship. I'd just been told I'd got brain cancer. I'd just been told I've got 5 to 10 years to live. And now you're telling me that I might not have a family. Do you think that's what I'm thinking about right now? Have you assessed my mental state to think if that's something that you should be talking to me about? I've got no future. Why on earth would I want a family? At no point during that did anybody ask me about my emotional health and how I was feeling, and maybe that would have been better. Let's come back to that discussion. Luckily, my mum's there. I don't do anything without my mum these days. And without her, I wouldn't have been able to even think about having my eggs frozen. Because what if in the next 5 to 10 years you do find a cure, and I've got even longer to live, and I could have that family that I've always dreamed of? But that wasn't an option that the doctor spoke to me about. It was an option that my mum told the doctor, let's consider this. So some people go to these appointments on their own. Somebody needs to ask them those questions. Would you like to have this? Do you think it might be a wise idea to do this? Because in the future, you might want to do this. Instead of, right, we've got to do this now, we've got to do this now. So I did go and have my eggs frozen, and that again was another surgery under general anaesthetic. But at least I know now, if I do have a chance to have a family, it's still there. I haven't lost it, and that's all because of my mum. So again, talking about all of that, treatment options. Ash mentioned earlier about how tumours use glucose, and I believe that's to grow. One of the treatment options that people talk about who have got brain cancer and epilepsy and other forms of cancer is the ketogenic diet. That was never offered to me, it was never mentioned to me. Again, I had to raise that with my oncologist, who then had to refer me to a dietitian. If these options are clear, people can make informed decisions about the care and the options. And also, people who've been on steroids and they're really fat and they're miserable. It's also a healthy, safe way to lose a bit of weight as well, which will then improve their self-esteem and confidence. And capacity, it's not always related to whether you're mentally ill. Your emotional state can change your capacity. The medication that you're on might affect your capacity, because, as you're probably aware, medication for epilepsy can do some weird things to your mood. And if you're in a bad mood that day, you're going to be in a negative frame of mind. Somebody asks you a question, you might just snap back at them and just say, "Oh, leave me alone, I don't want to talk about that, I'm not interested." But that's not what you'd say if you were in a good place. So I think capacity needs to be assessed more often. And again, I mentioned about the fertility preservation. That should be offered on a plate to people, because most people want to have a family, and to not be given that option to even think about it, I think that's quite, it's wrong. People should be aware that it's an option for them without having their mum present say, "Oh, doctor, have you thought about this?" So what I'm doing now, as you're aware, I'm back at work, I'm full-time, but I'm also a community ambassador for the Brain Tumour charity, and I do a lot of fundraising in my spare time, but I'm also a stepmom now. So, because I can't have my own children, but I've still got the opportunity to be a mum, so I'm just super stoked about that.